see what happens. We're on the air. Oh, my God. Hi. We've had a wonderful class today without you, but we're glad you're here to join us. I always know what I'm going to do until the class starts, and then I freak. Okay, I have something we're going to do. Oh, yeah. I'm going to call roll just a little bit, just for fun. I do this in my other classes a lot, but it's kind of fun here. Before I hand this out, just so we get a broad survey of how unique, weird, strange, interesting we all are, coming from all our diversity. Let me start at the middle. Asib, what is your favorite food, a favorite meal?
Well, not meal, but food, I guess Chinese.
Chinese?
Yeah.
I guess this is only cool if you can see everybody on TV, which you can't. And what's your kind of ethnic background, and you like Chinese food?
I'm from Pakistan. I guess it's good. I mean, Indian food is good, I guess, because it's the same thing, Pakistan, Indian food. But Chinese is better. Chinese is better,
yeah. I was in one of my classes, an honors class I taught a couple years ago. One of the students got married, and I was invited to this Pakistani wedding. And there were about, 25, white people there, and or Caucasians there, and I made sure I sat with Pakistani people and friends, and we went through this line, and everybody was watching me to see what I was going to eat. And every time I put something in my mouth, everybody was kind of looking out of the corner of their eye, and most of it was pretty good. If it wasn't moving, I was willing to try it. It was just basic theory. But at the end, we had this dessert that had kind of a rice.
I think I know what you're talking about. Was it like white?
Yeah.
And was it like
sweet?
Yeah, sweet. That's what it is.
Is that what it is? What's it called?
Yeah. Well, no. That's like more milky stuff, isn't it? Kheer. Yeah, kheer. There we go.
Is kheer?
Did it have like liquidy?
Yeah.
Like snake-looking things in it?
Yeah. Well, I don't want it. Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah. Little maggot-looking things. Yeah. Mm-hmm, it was rice. It was good though. Okay. And Tam, when? What's your ethnicity or background?
I'm Vietnamese, and I like Vietnamese food or Chinese. It's the same thing, I think.
Either one?
It's not.
Where's the best? Where's the best Vietnamese shop in Houston?
Huh?
Where's the best place to eat Vietnamese food in Houston?
It depends what you like.
Well, I know that.
Like down in Bel Air, there's a whole bunch of like Sin Sin.
Oh, far out Bel Air.
Bel Air.
Wow, cool. And Ashley? Ashley? She's not here. Oh, there you are.
Oh, my favorite food is pizza.
Pizza, and your ethnic background, whatever is?
Spanish and Mexican.
Spanish and Mexican. Okay, great. And Freddie? Is it Freddie? Okay, and Caroline Pham? Who's Vietnamese background. Well, I don't know why we say that, or that's important, but go ahead. What's your favorite food?
I guess Vietnamese food.
This is so boring. Everybody likes it. This is not going on like we planned. Hang in there. Don't go to sleep on TV. Wait just a minute. We'll be back. Hold on. Don't touch that dial. Okay, and Dung Pham? Dung?
Right here. I go by Young.
Young?
Yeah.
As in Carl Young?
No, well, in Vietnamese, the D is pronounced as a Y.
And actually, Dung means brave.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
In Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Brave soldier.
Brave soldier. Yeah, that's cool. And Dung in English doesn't mean brave soldier.
Not at all.
It means something else, but it's not brave soldier. It's related to brave soldiers at some level. I don't know. So you like to go by Young?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to correct that. What's your favorite food?
I like crawfish.
Ooh, really? Crawfish. Do you like suck the heads?
You have to suck the head.
You have to suck the head?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you eat shrimp, do you eat the tail?
I'm allergic to shrimp.
But not crawfish?
Not crawfish.
Really? Does anybody, Asian, Oriental, I know that's not the correct word. Does anybody eat the tail of shrimp? I know some cultures that's just cool to eat the thing. You eat it? Really? Good roughage, isn't it? If Oriental is east, what's west called?
That's Occidental.
Yeah, it's called Occidental. Occidental. You don't hear that word too much anymore. Francis Potaki? What? Yeah, push the little button. And tell what kind of food do you like.
I like rice. To eat rice.
Rice? White rice?
With gravy.
And gravy? Wow. Okay, I have a joke there, but I'm not going to tell it. Maybe after class. Chantel Pruitt. Chantel?
I like shrimp.
Why am I thinking of Bubba Gump the way she said that? You know, Forrest Gump? Bubba, you like shrimp? It's good, isn't it? I like shrimp is good. It's not funny. Thank you. And Sharimath? How do you pronounce it?
Shrimp.
Sharimath.
I like Chinese food also.
Italian food?
Chinese food.
Chinese food. And your background is kind of?
I'm Indian.
Indian?
Yeah.
Okay, how many of y'all eat at home, eat your traditional ethnic food at home mostly when your parents are cooking it? Interesting. It's probably about half. It's probably about half the class. Oh, we went on the air. Yeah, it's about half the class. Extra credit for inviting me over. Thank you, Eric. Really? No, just bring me food. No, go ahead.
What? Hispanic, and I like Puerto Rican food. Probably because I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah, that's good. James?
I'm also Hispanic, Puerto Rican. I would say Vietnamese food.
Oh yeah, I changed my mind. I like Vietnamese food.
You can't change your mind. The exam's over. Vietnamese food. Like those cabbage rolls and stuff?
Spring rolls?
Spring rolls.
Go to Momong.
Yeah, Momong and Westheimer is really good Vietnamese food. So
I go to Mai's on Milan. Milam.
mine's is pretty good too.
And Aber? Eber. I'm sorry.
I like all sorts. Spanish, American, Vietnamese, Chinese. It's all good.
He's a hungry boy, isn't he?
I am.
I'm sorry. That's really funny. I like your honesty. Just feed me. Roosbeth? They're probably sitting here and I've mispronounced it. And Clarence Smith. Clarence? And Jason Straw. Oh, there you are.
I'm African American, half Panamanian, and I pretty much like anything that tastes good. Same.
Yeah, y'all get together. Just pull in the next plot and start eating. Michelle Taft. Did I already call her name? Is she here, Michelle? Okay, and on.
That's Andy.
Andy. We went through this before, didn't we?
We did.
Andy, okay, correct. You have to correct me every time. Thanks.
I'm Vietnamese and I love seafood. Any type.
Any type of seafood. Ooh.
Me too.
And Diana Torres? Did you call me and I didn't call you back?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I'm Mexican American and my favorite food is Mexican food.
Mexican food. What kind of Mexican food?
Anything, pretty much.
Anything?
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah, we went yesterday for lunch to Last Empire? Last Concert Cafe. Does anybody know what that is? Yep. North of town. It used to be a brothel, the guy who owns it. Actually, the guy who attends the bar has watched my TV class on gender, and I walked in and he says, "Do I know you?" And I said, "Do I get a free meal if you do?" And he said no, but he said, "I like your class," and all that stuff. And we got to talking. We went out and sat under the awnings, and it was real cold. They had the heaters on. But the place used to be a brothel. You come and eat, and then broth. But it was really good yesterday. And Legia?
I like Chinese food.
You like Chinese food? Wow, interesting. And I guess the point of doing this is just we're all just people that like to eat. And we're people that need to eat. And we have different choices. And Kalaya?
It's Kalea.
Kalea.
I'm African American and Native American, and I like soul food.
Soul food?
Yes.
What is soul food?
Like technically, it's like traditional Southern cooking.
Yeah.
Technically speaking.
Like
fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, candy yams, hot water cornbread, stuff like that.
I just put on 3 pounds. Listen to that. You like that too? That's good. How many have had soul food in here? Okay, those who have never had soul food, if you go, and this is a good extra credit on TV there, it's extra credit. Go eat out of your ethnicity. Go eat someplace, because this town has everything, is everywhere. Go eat someplace like ask Kalea, is that right? Ask Kalea after class, say, where did I get the best soul food? Go with someone, go eat there and then write a paper up on what your experience was, including the gastrointestinal challenge afterwards, if you have such. But that'd be a good way to kind of meet different cultures and ethnicities and stuff. And yeah.
But the stuff in the restaurants is kind of like processed and instant. It's better if you eat at somebody's house to get real soul food.
Yeah.
Well, find somebody here to take out to eat to their house and write a deal on it. But that's it. Okay, 2 more. Michael Watkins. Michael and Rose right here.
Yeah, I like Chinese and Indian food.
And your ethnicity is?
I'm from Africa. I'm from Kenya.
From Kenya?
Yeah.
And you like Chinese food?
Yeah, Chinese and some Indian.
And Indian food?
Yeah.
Well, what do people eat in Kenya, kind of, sort of, just basic?
I would say mostly like what people eat here. It's only that it's fixed different.
It's just fixed different spices and stuff like that?
Yeah, different spices.
Well, I feel like I'm, Martha Stewart class, or I guess that's not a good name now. Who's the guy, Emil or? Emerald. Hey, we'll be right back. Hit it with the band. Okay. Okay, pass this around, and if you don't have an okay by your name, put your little deal there, and that would be good. Emerald, when he first did that show, this is his 3rd time before they hit it. He's a very shy guy. He's not real extra. He's introverted. But the show was so bland, it never made it. And they tried it again. They changed the program. It didn't make it. And finally, they said, Emerald, come on, buddy, get out of your shell, go wild. So he brings this band in. If you ever see it, it's really interesting. And he just started going crazy with food, and it's one of the most popular shows around. And most of you are saying, is this on the exam, Dr. again? Okay, this is okay, so what? I want to read this poem, and I want to see if anybody can guess the ethnicity. The young woman's name is Lynn, and she is a high school student. And let me see if you can guess the ethnicity of this person. I remember Lynn sitting by her bedside of her dying mother. She was a frail girl with cloudy eyes and pale lips. The light would flicker through the window as Lynn would stare across the littered rooftops of the old city tenements where twisted TV aerials pierced the hazy sky. This was pre-cable. She hardly noticed me as I sat by her bed, and I watched her stroke her mother's withered hand and cold white face. At that moment, her mind was soft and sensitive, reaching out like silent antennae into the sullen world. Lynn's song and her secret is one that many young women experience at one time or another. Now listen to this. Just listen to her poem here. It's titled, One Little Piece of Mystery. Can anyone measure the flames in the sky? Can anyone color the ferns in my eyes? Can anyone fly where the white sunbeam flies? I whisper, I cry, I wonder who I am. One little piece of mystery called Lynn. Can anyone suffer the groans of the sea? Can anyone answer the wind and the tree? Can anyone dream what the future will be? I whimper, I die, I wonder who I am. One little piece of mystery called Lynn. Or why are there ripples which spin through my hair, and why do my eyelashes kiss the fresh air? And why do I quiver like a quail in a snare? I tingle, I sigh, I wonder who I am. One little piece of mystery called Lynn. Can anyone measure the weight of a tear? Can anyone capture the sounds in my ear? Can anyone feel what a small bird must fear? I shudder, I try, I wonder who I am. One little piece of mystery called Lynn. Who could guess her ethnicity? You can't do the rippled hair thing. Well, it's sort of a trick question, isn't it? Who could this be? Anybody. Anybody. Anybody, any culture, any time. And and the reason we all resonate, and you were listening very intently because it's a wonderful poem, and of course the way I read it was wonderful. But see, what's beautiful about it is it's something that's common to all of us. It's like an archetype. And I'm going to throw this out before we get on with our deal today, because we'll look more at this later. Are we on the air here? Okay. Are you still there? There we go. Not yet. The two things I want to do in this course that we'll be doing over and over again is seeing all the things we have in common. That from after my class, you'll never look at anyone without recognizing that we have a common thread running through every human being, so we're all alike. And then you won't see people without thinking, I wonder how different each of us is, and the gift of that. Hi, Stacy's waving to me. I'm waving back. We're on the air, okay. And I'm just going to introduce this a little bit. We were looking at this concept of the ego, which is the center of our conscious world, and it's what we develop in order to function in the world. You've got to develop an ego. And I'll look some more later some of what that is. And below the waterline, using this iceberg theory, this is Basic Psychology 101, is the personal unconscious, which is your own issues, talents, gifts, wounds, stuff that's below that. And then below that is called the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is the things that's common to every one of us. And down here reside these things called archetypes. My son calls them archetypes, which is kind of cute, but he's 31, so he can't be cute at 31. We'll look at more of this later. I'm just going to throw it out. In the literature on cultural psychology, some of the stuff I read, these things that are common to all universal and common to all cultures, all people, everywhere, they're actually called ethics. And I haven't figured out yet why they call them that, but I'll film at 11. We'll get back with that. And we developed these masks called personas. Persona is the Greek word for mask, like a person. Two people would do a Greek play and they'd have 15 masks, and they'd put on the mask, hello, hi, how are you, being the woman, and I'm, what is the deal? You must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. You must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. I'll pay the rent. My hero. No extra charge for that class. But you see what I'm saying? How I just put on 3 masks right then. I hope you can see the difference. That's a persona. That's person. That's where you get it. And these actually are called personas, or the roles that are unique to every culture are called emics. We will really look at more of this later. But I wanted to just kind of introduce it. And the reason I did this is I wanted to show you this one kind of deal like this. And these are the waves of the ocean. And we might say the ocean itself is, each wave is unique individually, and we might say collectively. Each of these could be a culture, an ethnicity. Each of these could be a person. Each of these waves could be a family. And we have certain energies, archetypes that we have, different express. But down at this level, the ocean, we all have in common. And when I read about Lynn, L-I-N-H, or was it L-Y-N-N? Or was it L-E-N? Isn't that interesting? And these are 3 different sounds of the same name. But the fact is, the poem I read just shows you how we have these things. She's dealing with the death of her mother. And she's talking about reflecting on the mystery of life that she is. And all of us are mysterious. We have the ground of our existence is so mysterious. If you were to try to understand it, it's best to understand your conscious world like you're a raft out in the middle of the ocean, and it's safe, and you're 2,000 miles from land in the Pacific Ocean. That raft is what you know of yourself. The rest of the ocean is what you don't know about yourself, and you have in common with everyone else in their little raft. See, so there's these themes of our commonalities, archetypes, and ethics in the collective unconscious. Collective means everybody's got it. There are things we're all not aware of. And then there's things personally we're unaware of. But then there's roles and masks that our ego develops. And I'll look some more at that, which we call personas. They're also called emics in the book, and we'll look at that a little bit later. But for some reason I wanted to introduce that before we start today. Let's just go on with our film, and I'll get back in a minute to looking at... Today we're looking at Latino culture, we're looking at Mexican-American culture, and I've got this zippy little 20-minute film that is, as I told the class earlier, it's sort of a white men can't dance kind of film. But it's a really interesting film, and there's a group of students who talk about ethnicity and Mexican-American stuff. And do you want to go ahead and roll that, and we'll show that, and then our people will come up and present what they have today.
One, two, three, four.
Continents, nations, borders. You can't really see the borders from up here, but humans insist on drawing lines that divide and separate. When people from different nations live side by side, the results range from peaceful harmony to war. Usually, it's something in between. Meet Alex Peterson. He's from the United States of America, or the USA. And now meet Alejandro Garcia. He's from Mexico, or Mexico. Despite living next door, Alex and Alejandro have little contact with each other, although neither one could tell you exactly why. Perhaps they feel they don't have much in common, or maybe what they've heard about each other's culture makes them uncomfortable. In some ways, their families are quite similar. For example, in both families, relatives come to visit.
Oh, we finally made it! Hi!
¿Cortaste el pelo, eh? Grandote, Bien, bien.
Alex, working on your truck,
Come on in, you guys.
But to Alex, the Garcias seem overly emotional. He doesn't understand why they seem to get so excited. And he wonders why they don't just speak English now that they live in the United States. On the other hand, Alejandro doesn't understand why the Petersons don't seem to show much emotion. To him, they seem reserved, even a little cold. And when relatives do visit, why do they just sit around talking? The Garcias have heard that many Americans don't want relatives living with them, and that they push children out of the home at age 18. Don't they value family?
You guys will stay and eat with us, won't you?
Sure, that'd be great.
The Petersons understand why Grandma lives with the Garcias, but they question why an aunt lives there too, as well as Alejandro's older brother who finished school long ago and has a job.
I was glad to see that.
The Petersons enjoy it when their relatives come to visit.
What's going on?
They wonder why the Garcias can't simply enjoy their relatives without all the hoopla and carrying on. They also wonder why the Garcias have so many relatives that visit, and why they have so many parties.
1, 2, 3,
4. Since 1980, more immigrants have come to the U.S. from Mexico than from any other country. Increasingly, Mexicans and Americans will work, go to school, and live side by side. This contact between Mexicans and Americans has tremendous potential to benefit both groups. It also has potential for misunderstanding. To help us understand each other, we've gathered a group of young people to explore a few of the ideas Mexicans and Americans have about each other.
With my family in particular, my immediate family, we don't show very much emotions to each other. I mean, we repress ourselves pretty much, and I mean,
my family, see, me and her, we're both Mexican. My family shows a lot of emotion. You know, if they got something to say, they say it. If they're gonna cry about it, they're gonna cry about it. They're gonna laugh about it, they're gonna laugh about it. I mean, it's just, I guess it's just the way you were brought up.
Yeah, but like with my family, it's just my mom and I, but I mean, we're really emotional. I mean, everything that happens to her, I feel, and everything happens to me, she feels.
Now, I'm not one to say that Mexicans hurt more or love deeper, but I do think that generally culture does dictate behavior a little bit.
I don't think like Mexicans are tend to be more like out and open. Cause I mean, I'm a cheerleader, and like most of my cheerleaders that, well, I call them my cheerleaders, but anyways, they're like better than me, and you know, more like energetic than me. Like I know Julie is way more than me, and you know, and that doesn't mean that just because I'm Mexican, I'm gonna be that one out there, you know, the loudest one. Yeah, go Panthers, you know. They are.
Mexicans, I think, when they talk, they tend to use their hands a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, when my mom's talking to me, she's like, man, I'm like, okay, Mom, calm down on the hands.
Yeah, but see, that's not true.
That's not true.
Because I do it too, you know.
I
mean, I'll go up and I'll be like, you know, what's up, like, you know, and I'll just go like, you know, I do it just like half the time, irritate the people, but I still do it, you know.
I don't think it's like, you know, a culture or a race thing that, you know, I think it's like one of those stereotypical things where you see, you know, all the Mexicans, you know, doing that. But I mean, I just think it depends on each individual person. Yes, Mexicans speak Spanish to each other. I mean, like where I used to go to school, it's like there'd be little cliques, and it's like they would, you know, just this little group, and they would exclude anybody who didn't speak Spanish, you know, and they'd be talking about other people, you know, outside this group, making fun of them, and just they think they didn't understand them. And I'll walk by and occasionally catch a few choice phrases and stuff, and I'll understand what they mean. And
it's not that it's going to be a problem. It's good. I think we need the diversity.
Yeah. I only speak Spanish in my home. I don't speak Spanish with my friends, and they're Spanish. I don't even speak Spanish to my sister. I mean, come on now. We're not going to speak Spanish to everybody that speaks Spanish. I mean,
unless it was something, you know, between.
Yeah, I mean, the only people I speak Spanish to is the people who don't understand English.
Because there are some people, they speak it and just decide not to learn English, or they speak it and decide to keep it in the family as a tradition, but they know that when they have to go out in the rest of the world, not everybody else speaks Spanish, so they have to learn the language of the popular language of wherever it is they're living.
Now, the ability to speak two languages, right, that was once regarded as an essential characteristic of the fully educated man. And I agree with that. I think that everybody should have an eclectic knowledge, and if they're fortunate enough to be able to be raised with two languages, then all the power to them, speak them.
A lot of people say that Mexicans don't want to learn English, and this is not true. In fact, most Mexicans bend over backwards to learn English. But if they are resistant to learning English, it's because they're afraid of losing their culture.
When you say Mexican, it's someone that it's native and it's born in Mexico. Physically was born in Mexico. So basically that's Mexican.
I like totally disagree with you, because I was born here in the States, and if I'm Mexican, not Mexican American, I'm Mexican, because I was brought up with the pride of being Mexican.
I consider myself to be Mexican American because I was born in Chicago. Now, I give respect to being Mexican because that's the tradition I grew up with, that's the heritage that I keep. But I also have to pay respect to America for being the soil that I live on and the country that I'm allowed to succeed in.
I don't think there's a difference between the term Mexican and Mexican American because America's North America, Central America, South America. So we're all America.
Once they find out I speak Spanish, they automatically just assume that I'm Mexican, you know? And I'm like, no, no, you're Mexican. I'm like, no, I'm Puerto Rican, Ecuadorian, you know? And they don't understand that there is a difference.
With my roots, I mean, if you chase me back, I'm like half German and half Norwegian or whatever. If I were to go over there, it's like they wouldn't consider me a German and I wouldn't, you know, consider myself German.
I'm half Japanese and half Caucasian, and I just think, I mean, I consider myself being both, but I just think that it depends on how many generations have been here and what you consider yourself.
It's kind of like African American or black. Well, you know, we go back so far, we don't even know. So with Mexican American and Mexican, a lot of people know, well, my grandparents were first generation immigrants or third generation or something. They know how far back they go.
They ask you what to prefer to call, you know, Mexican, Mexican American, Hispanic, you know. I mean, if they truly want to know, I prefer to be called Araweni. It's my first name, and that's the name that's going to be on the presidential ballot pretty soon.
Some people of Mexican descent moved to the U.S. from Mexico. There are many others who were born in the United States. Some have never lived in what we know today as Mexico. Their ancestors lived in parts of northern Mexico that were incorporated into the United States as a result of the Mexican-American War and related events. Their families may have lived for hundreds of years in what is now the United States. There are also many places besides Mexico where Spanish is spoken. In addition to Puerto Rico, which is part of the U.S., 19 countries use Spanish as their primary language. Ingrid's parents are from Puerto Rico and Ecuador. So, as she explained, not all people who speak Spanish are Mexican. Nor is everyone with a Spanish last name Mexican. For example, Chuck Salazar's ancestors were Native American. And when the Spanish explorers came, they gave his people Spanish last names. Maria's married name is Farrington, but she's of Mexican descent. She works with Amy, whose last name is Martinez, but who isn't Mexican. Amy is married to a man whose family is from Honduras. Richard Jaramillo's ancestors were Spaniards who settled in what is now New Mexico. His family have always considered themselves to be Spanish.
When I was growing up, we called ourselves Spanish American because we were from New Mexico, and Mexican was a derogatory term. When we talk about naming in my culture, we're starting with some huge umbrella terms: Hispanic and Latino. Hispanic was created to speak of all Spanish-speaking people and in the United States, or from Spanish descent. Latino is an umbrella term that mainly constitutes the Western Hemisphere, although I've also heard people from Spain use the term. But it also includes not just Spanish speakers, but people who speak Portuguese, like Brazilians. When I think of the word Chicano, I remember my brother bringing it home for the first time. One of my brothers, he was very much involved in the student movements at the time, and he said, "We are Chicano. Yo soy Chicano." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "It means that we're Mexicans, but it means more than that. It means that we come from this country. We should have equal rights in this country, and we're not getting equal rights. And it's about time we started to receive equal rights." So I equated the term Chicano with political movement, political peoplehood, strength, and it also meant that I was Mexican at the same time. In my family, my oldest brothers called themselves Spanish, some of the middle brothers called themselves Mexican American, and then some of the younger ones called themselves Chicanos. I've been told that I don't look Mexican, and this is the stereotype that all Mexicans look alike and have the same physical characteristics. But just as American people have a broad range of different physical characteristics, so do Mexicans. You can find Mexicans with green eyes and red hair, and you can find Mexicans with blue eyes and blonde hair. Or you can find people like me who have green-brown eyes and olive skin. I mean, the range is phenomenal. And so when you typify Mexicans, you're probably wrong physically.
America is such a diverse accumulation of like different immigrant groups that we should know by now that, you know, if you want to find out what somebody is, you know, ask him. I mean, I could be Mexican, I could be Iranian for all you know, I could be Tahitian, Native American.
That's like this kid at school. I always thought he was Mexican. Come to find out, he's Iranian. I'm like, no, you're Mexican. You're Mexican. You look Mexican. No, man, I'm Iranian. Man, shut up. You're Mexican. I know. Trust me. I know Mexican when I see one.
Sometimes the word race is used when referring to people of different nationalities or cultures. That is not correct. Americans are not all of one race, and Mexicans are not all of one race either.
They have a really tight family, you know, they're distant relatives that I would, you know, of my distant relatives, I wouldn't even know, you know, I had them.
We're not as close, but they still mean as, yeah, we're still family.
I don't feel like when my family comes over we throw a party or anything. We're excited to see each other, but it's not like we go all out and let's go, you know, have a big party. And I'm not saying that it's that way in a Mexican home either, you know. I think it just depends on your family and how much, who you're with.
We don't throw parties.
It also
I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know if, like, when you get together, if you throw parties, but...
We do.
Our family does. I don't know, because my family isn't really like that. I think the only person that's like that is me.
Seriously, I go to her house and I don't even want to sit on the couch. Their house is like too nice. I'm like sitting there. I didn't clean anything.
When we have like part of our family come from Mexico, my family, they just throw parties, fiestas, ay caramba. I mean, we just like, I mean, my family do lots of stuff.
Down there in Mexico, I never heard of like homes where you could put elder people, you know. I mean, over there it's like they either have their own house or, you know, they stay with somebody else, with one of the relatives.
My grandfather, before he passed away, he came to live with us. My mom was working and my dad was working, and there was no way we could take care of him. We ended up putting him in a retirement home, which was a great thing for our family because we didn't argue about it, and he was happy and we were happy. And then when it was time for him to pass on, we bring him back into our home, and he was able to pass on in our home, and he was able to be somewhere where he was comfortable.
I would be willing to, you know, take my grandparents in, and I don't think it's has to do with my culture.
When my grandpa passes on, or my grandma passes on, my family plans on taking whoever's there into our house and cherishing them and, you know, taking care of them. And when I'm out of the house, I plan on taking my mom in when she's old.
Alex sometimes thinks he might want to hang out with Alejandro.
I don't know. You kind of want to stay away from those guys, the Mexicans. They come over here and they take jobs away from us. And it seems to me like they're pretty lazy.
That is absolutely not true. They come because America is seen as this big land of opportunity, and so, you know, they work these little bitty jobs because that's all that us Americans will let them do, because we're the ones who made it to be what it is, and you can't come and have a part of this. But they're not here to take jobs. They're here because to fulfill the promise that we portray to the rest of the world.
We were brought to the United States because my father was offered a job, and he was offered that. He didn't steal that job from anybody. He was offered that job because he was good enough.
How can Mexicans come to the United States and take jobs and be lazy at the same time? You can't have it both ways. Mexicans come here to work.
No, another thing, the Mexicans, they tend to be they work in unskilled jobs, and they're not very well educated. I don't know if you want to hang around with people like that.
This is a generalization. Like many generalizations, it's far too broad and can lead to inaccurate stereotypes and misunderstanding. It's true that there are Mexicans who work in unskilled occupations, just as immigrants from many other countries have done since the founding of the United States. But often, the children and grandchildren of these workers pursue education and professional careers.
Now, what's going to happen right now as you reboot your computer, it's going to disable your 32-bit drive.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, well over 1 million people of Mexican origin work in technical, sales, and administrative support occupations, and over 500,000 work in professional and managerial jobs. There are people of Mexican origin working as judges, law enforcement officers, elected officials at all levels of government, university professors, doctors, therapists, and as professionals in many other fields.
And you know, they're trying to take our country away from us.
It's the land of opportunity, and we need, that's what makes this country so good, is that everyone brings different things to our culture.
A whole bunch of cultures just coming, and it's like that's just another culture adding on.
I don't think Mexicans can take the land back or anything, but why they're here is because of opportunities. And in Mexico, you usually see all these magazines where it says, you know, America, here's a castle, here's a good house, here's a car and everything. So they come here because of that. I mean, they want to, because of the way the economy is in Mexico, it's not that good. So they come up here to get better opportunity.
Alejandro thinks he might like to get to know Alex, but his aunt has told him to be careful because Americans have misconceptions about Mexicans.
Stereotyping entire groups of people is never appropriate and doesn't work. Americans very frequently and often marry Mexicans and have children with them. So if they're that problematic, if the relationships are that problematic, then I don't see how that can happen.
With my friend being Mexican, like, we'll go places and you know, people look at him differently. Like, we'll go to the mall and we'll be followed by a security officer, and you know, just to see what happens, I'll go one way and he'll go the other way. And because of the ignorance of the security officer, he'll follow my friend, and that hurts me. I mean, I will never know what it's like to be a Mexican in America, but you know, I can see, and it's, you know, it hurts sometimes.
I think Mexicans are portrayed in movies. It's like being gangsters, or, you know, like I said earlier, with the hair nuts, the crease shirt, you know, the baggy pants, the vato loco, you know.
Let me play the devil's advocate on this whole issue. I mean, sure, it's easy to blame the media, the oppressor, the man, you know, for all these stereotypes. But exactly, let's take our responsibility in for this. How many young youth out there are contributing to this, fueling this stereotype right now?
Probably.
You know, and I mean, unless we're doing something about it, you know, we can't really complain. You know?
Obviously, if you don't want to be put in that stereotype, don't become a gangster. Don't, you know, don't keep that stereotype going. You know, if anything, change it.
I think that you should judge people by the way that they act. I don't think, I mean, by the outward appearance, you can't really tell anything. You should give them a chance.
If we were willing to put aside our differences and just see each other for who we are, I think we'd be able to get along a lot better.
I think that we should all start looking within and not without, because out we're all different, but in we're all the same. We're all human beings.
Some people are dark-skinned, some people have blonde hair. But really, what it comes down to is, we're all human beings. We all inhabit the planet, we all raise our children and want the best for them. And really what it comes down to is, we're more similar than we are different. What we stand to gain by understanding our similarities and our humanity is really the critical future of the planet.
Kind of messed up here. We're on the air. Can you turn on this little deal again? I realized I sort of messed up. What I should have done. Say it again. Something's on. Yeah, microphone's on. What I should have done. Who's coming up to present? Y'all come on up here and yeah, we got some time to do that. Okay, turn on our little pad right here. Thank you. It's called Dead Time, isn't it? I guess, let's see, I do a little dance. Why didn't somebody come play some music to class one day? That'd be really good. Yeah, what I should have done is had the names, the different personalities at the top of the wave. That's what I was getting at. And whoever is just talking about the mystery of life, you see, which we all experience, but it could have been any number of people talking about that. That's what they were saying in the movie, how this is this archetypal common aspect. Archetypes are things that are common to everybody, every human being that ever lives is sort of below the surface that we all have in common, and our unique personality is the top of the wave. We'll look at that later. Did they leave? Oh. He went to the bathroom. Okay, I have a joke. This guy goes to the psychiatrist, and he sits down, and they do like a association test. Keep it down here. And so the psychiatrist goes, well, I'm going to draw a few symbols here, and just tell me the first things that comes to your mind. And so the guy psychiatrist draws a circle, and the patient goes, sex, doc, sex. Very interesting. The psychiatrist says, this is very interesting. Well, let me try to draw something else. So then he draws a triangle. First thing, he holds it up, and the guy says, what do you think? He goes, sex, doc. I don't know. Just sex just comes to mind. So he says, well, let me try this again. I'm stereotyping the Freudian professor. And he says, so he holds up this square, and he holds it up to this guy one more time, trying to get at what's going on in his unconscious. By this time, the patient is pretty aroused. He goes, doc, sex. Sex. And the psychiatrist says, well, it seems to me you have a dysfunction in the area of your sexuality. And the patient goes, me, doc? You're the one drawing all the dirty pictures. I'm sorry. Y'all come on up and we'll do this. That's supposed to be funny. I guess if you're over 50, you laugh. What? What's dirty about the pictures? Yeah, we'll talk after class like that. Okay, you talk about nothing. Here we are. Give it a big hand. Here we go. Okay. Pablo and the ladies.
How's it going, folks? The article that I'm going to be talking about today, I couldn't find it in the book, so you guys might not know about it, but I'm going to give you a good summary of it. It was the ethnic blends of Latino makes racial identities in U.S. unclear. So, it's a pretty true statement. I think if I was to ask anybody in here if they could tell where my mother or father came from, they'd have a hard time saying exactly where they came from. They'd say generally I fall under the category of Hispanic or Latino as defined by the video. But can anybody guess where I know I've mentioned it in class before, but can anybody guess where my mother's from?
Central American?
Close. She's South American. She's from Peru. So basically what I'm getting at is you just can't really tell, my mom's from Peru, my father's from he's actually from the States, but he's Mexican. So that's basically the gist of the article. And also, from my appearance, people are going to pretty much assume that I have Mexican, Central American, or South American cultural sort of habits, but I really don't, not that much, because I grew up without extended family. My mother was an orphan who came here from Peru, so there's absolutely no extended family on that side. And my father split when I was pretty young, so there's really not, any extended family on there. So all the stuff I picked up from just everywhere. Friends, the neighborhood I grew up in was heavily populated with Hispanics, so I did pick up a lot of things about Hispanic culture. But that was just sort of a preface to get you ready for the summary of the article, which is actually about Afro-Latinos, which are Latin people who are of African descent. And basically, these people have a much more dark complexion, and they come from all over, from Brazil, from Colombia, Panama, and any other Latin American country that's got a sizable population of people of African descent. So what these people find is when they move to America that they undergo a whole lot of confusion on exactly what their race is, because here things are defined so much by black and white.
So to speak.
Right. Well, in a lot of ways, people don't expect to see someone with very, very dark skin speak fluent Spanish and maybe no English at all. It's sort of surprising. So what ends up happening is these people come here and they get sort of criticism from both sides of both opinions. Like, black Americans say that these people are denying their blackness by saying they're not saying that they're not of African descent, that they relate more to their Latin cultures, and white people think, you know, that have some white people have predispositions of anybody has predispositions about other cultures. So they these Latin Americans just, you know, they really just don't fit in here because they don't fall into an easily defined category. And these people are, you know, constantly having to explain themselves and their backgrounds. In the 2000 census, according to the article, it says that Latinos in America identified themselves 48% as white. Let's see, 42% as some other culture, and the rest define themselves as Aztec, Mayan, or Indian. So, you know, what I started to get from all this is that labels and names like that really don't tell people much about your culture. You know, your skin color, it doesn't really tell anybody much about what kind of cultural norms you adhere to. The article went on to talk about how in Latin America that these black Latinos don't face the same kind of judgments that they do here. They face a whole other set of judgments. And to be honest, I feel like the article was really vague about that. It said, this is a quote, Latin countries had more fluid experiences of race after slavery, because basically all the Afro-Latinos have a history of slavery too. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's really that different. What's that?
Do you have a couple questions or questions?
Sure. Let's see. Okay, well, has anybody here encountered someone who was very, very dark or had a very, very dark complexion, but spoke Spanish fluently? Okay. Is anybody here like that? You said you were from Panama.
No, my mom, she's from Panama.
She speaks fluent Spanish?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you find some of the things that I've said to be true to a certain extent?
A lot, because a lot of people think she's from African descent, and when she starts to speak Spanish fluently, they surprised. And she didn't call a lot of people talking about her.
Right.
You know, a lot of Spanish people talking about her, and she starts speaking Spanish, and their eyes get big, and they, you know, get surprised that she speaks Spanish. Yeah.
And is there anybody else here that is had a similar experience where you sort of get mistaken for a different culture, or somebody, you know, like, for instance?
I get mistaken for American and white.
Okay.
All the time. I get mistaken for being a Mexican a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
In what way?
Its appearance.
No, I mean, if somebody mistakes you for being...
They speak to you in Spanish.
Well, they talk to you in Spanish?
One time that happened in my high school, these two guys just came up to me and started talking Spanish. I said, what are you doing, you know? And then they said, oh, you're not Mexican? I said, no. And they just left.
But Shapur, if it's some really nice-looking Hispanic woman that walks up...
Guys.
But if some Hispanic woman walks up speaking Spanish, aren't you going to kind of go with it for a while? At some level, like, hey, what's up? Come on. You know.
And how does that make you feel when people, you know, confuse your identity and then perhaps go on to discuss it? Like,
I mean, I don't know. It really didn't offend me in any way. I mean, especially because I had grown out a little goatee, so they were like, they said, "Oh, you look really Mexican." So when they mistook me for it, I really didn't care. But I just said, no, I'm Iranian, and they were like, oh, okay, bye. And that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I've had similar experiences, and I find some people tend to really care, and some people just, you know, it's not a big deal. You know, they find out that, you know, I don't speak Spanish as fluently as, you know, it would appear, and, you know, some people just don't care. They just, you know, it's not a big deal. Some people do. Let's see. Well, in the article it says, and this is another quote, the elite in Brazil, as in most Latin American nations, are educated and white, but many browns and black people also belong to that class. Generally browns, in any case, I feel like that was kind of vague, because you could say the same thing about America, you know, mainly the elite in America are educated white, but many brown and black people also belong to that class. So to me it doesn't seem like there really is that much of a difference, only that like the major racial issues here are between blacks and whites, and down there it seems like it's between the European settlers and the indigenous peoples. I can list like several places like Chiapas, for instance, in Peru, there was communist guerrillas back in, I don't know, the 50s or 60s. And Colombia right now, there's the FARC who are fighting, you know, to reclaim Colombia for the indigenous people. So, I mean, that kind of stuff it's going on, but what I'm trying to say is that I don't think blacks necessarily deal with some of the same issues down there as they do up here, but essentially their place in society doesn't seem to be much different. It seems like everybody has sort of a place in modern society. But like I was saying, the main thing about this is really what it seemed to me is that race just doesn't define culture very well. You know, you just can't look at somebody and, like, you can get a clue, but, you know, you're better off asking somebody, you know, specific questions about their person to find out about them rather than trying to use their race or the language they speak to pigeonhole them into one particular culture. And it seems like even a lot of people who have strong ties to their culture at times around different groups of people will behave a different way because it's a little bit more appropriate. So it seems like it's like a culture kind of lies on a continuum, and it's not just like one way or the other way. People, maybe their music and their style of dress is more American, but their values as far as like marriage and other things like that are tied to their traditional society. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
And for Pablo. I'm program director here as well as, it was a good job. Great.
I'm doing the essay on Hispanics and the American Dream, and it was basically what the video, you know, just spoke about, how there's misconceptions about Hispanics in America, that they're viewed as poor and uneducated, which is not true. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Okay, but. Hispanics are the largest minority in the U.S. today, and in her research, she says that the reason why they are viewed as poor and uneducated is because they only study 1/4 of the population, which is visible to all. But there are many Hispanics now in America that are in social mainstream. One thing that caught my attention in this was the fact that she said that Cubans are highly successful than any other Hispanic groups, and I was wondering if anyone could, you know, has an idea why this could be. Cubans are, yes.
I think Cubans, they come with the mindset that they're ready to hustle and they're ready to do anything it takes to make as much money as they can.
Is that stereotyping, or is that a lot of truth to that?
No, I mean, because I was in history class. I learned about how all the refugees came.
Oh, right, okay.
And everything,
yeah.
and like
they're leaving a despotic regime and looking for opportunity.
It is kind of a stereotype now, but it was kind of like that in the past. And plus, I watched Scarface, and he liked it. So.
Scarface? What is that? A movie?
Oh, can I write a paper on that?
Yeah, write a paper on Scarface. Good job.
Okay, I agree with you because I feel that this could be true for the fact that Cubans come here, you know, fleeing something, you know, Castro and everything, and many other Hispanic people come, they leave their family behind, and they come, they work with the intention of going back, and that's what I can get from that. Also, in the essay, she speaks how Hispanic families are usually healthier, and they are closer than, you know, American families. And, well, it was basically just what you saw in the video, but my question is that, what do you consider your American dream? Because it says that many Hispanics come here looking for the American dream, and I was wondering what you consider to be the American dream.
What is the American dream? Walmart? Go ahead.
I always thought the American dream was just being able to come to this country. You might not be very economically well off, but through hard work and, you know, just the opportunities that are available here, you can actually make a decent life and just better yourself.
Okay. Yes.
I think simply the American dream is anything as far as being successful. If you're successful, I think that's like the American dream.
I think it's being more successful than your parents and being more successful as generations pass by.
Concur. We have a vote. We have a quorum. Good. That's good, though. I was in the American dream until I sent my kids to college. Now it's the American nightmare. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? No, y'all.
Everybody's saying successful, but what I want to say is people's definition of successful is different from individual to individual. So it just has to do with what you want to do to make you happy, and that's the American dream.
Yeah.
Being able to do it.
Okay. Well, I'm done because everything was covered in the video. So.
Wonderful. Good job. Give her a hand there.
Okay, mine was politics is job number one, which was pretty much just talking about the way organizations, it talks about the National Council of La Raza, which is, it promotes Hispanic advancement and stuff like that. But yet it's predominantly run or funded by white corporations. So I guess the question that I had was, why do they go to corporations to fund them if they could find maybe sources from other organizations if they want to be independent and show the advancement of the Hispanic culture? Just kind of why y'all would think they would choose to, for example, take on or get funded by a Ford company, which is predominantly headed by a white male.
Anybody that hadn't spoken?
It's one of those situations where you just kind of take money where you can get it. I mean, it's a good cause. And, I mean, it would be detrimental to the cause to say we're just going to take money from Hispanic people, or we're just going to take money from companies that have predominantly Hispanic workers, because they need money. You know, they need to fund their own cause. And so I think part of it is corporations, or some corporations want to fund things like that in order to diversify, in order to promote people getting opportunities, in order to diversify their own companies.
Okay. It also goes on and talks about the term Hispanic and how people are not really, they're classified as Hispanic, but yet we go into a different level and classify ourselves as Mexican Americans, Cuban Americans. So it all is Hispanic, but the community as a whole still is broken down. So the culture is more by geography than just the Hispanic culture. It's more, people tend to break down the ethnic groups a little more. It also talked about MALDEF, which is another organization that obtained bilingual voting amendments and political redistricting in order to give minorities more electoral power. Pretty much they just operate the same way. They want to be separated, get rights for Hispanics, but they're also funded by pretty much predominantly white corporations. That's about it. And then it just talks about how we are more, or our problem is not diversity but homogeneity, which pretty much means that instead of looking to be diverse, we're still concentrated on how our culture is and just being the same instead of embracing other cultures and diversifying it. And that's about it.
Okay, good job. Thank you. Great. Everybody looks so photogenic up there. You notice everybody kind of looks good on TV, especially me. Just kidding. Let me do one more thing on this ego deal before we're done for the weekend. We were looking at the good. We were looking at the functions of the ego, and what is the ego? Remember, it's the center of our decision making. It's the ability to have willpower, function, get along in the world. And the three functions of the ego we were looking at. First is to orient us into time and space. I call it groundedness. And this happens, we looked at the last time, between the first, say, 14 years of life, we develop our ego. And everybody here has a good ego, otherwise you wouldn't be dressed. shown up, doing what you need to be doing. So the first function of the ego is to ground us into the universe. The second function, and I'll move through this, I'd like to do the other two in the last few minutes we have, is it allows us to differentiate, allows a differentiation, F-F-E-R-E-N-T-I-A-T-I-O-N. Is that spelled right? Okay. Which is another way to say it, do what? Yeah, it allows us to separate and to note, note differences. This is basic psychology of Freudian, Neo-Freudians. Erickson talks about, the first year, 18 months of life is you're building trust and you're getting grounded and connecting. I mean, you can't hug a 6-month-old too much at one level. You love and bond and connect, and it's safe to be here. That's the message that's being communicated. You feed, you clothe. You don't say, well, let the 6-month-old cry until they sleep at night, or the 3-month-old. You go in and help them because you want them to feel safe in time and space in the world. Then after they hit that place called the terrible twos, and remember it's only terrible for the parents, is the child is saying, no, 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 no. I'm not you, Mom, I'm me. I'm different from you. I'm separate. I don't like that. Spits out the peas, And the mother, if she's pretty bright, she understands that this is not a character flaw. It's just the child is differentiating. So the ego allows us to, I like to put, it also allows us to stand on our own feet. On our own feet. To say, I'm separate from you, I'm different from you. And this is what we're doing, is we look at cultural psychologies, we see how we're all different. Now here's what happens, is our differences differentiating creates anxiety. Because the fear is that if I'm different from you, you won't like me. And the child picks this up instinctually, that if I'm separate, I'm going to be abandoned. And this probably goes on the rest of our life. Being separate creates this anxiety. We're on our own, okay? You're on your own. There's no paradise. You're estranged. It's the human existence is on the planet is the experience of alienation. And so you have to learn to stand on your own feet. So you say you're going to be separate, fine. Stand on your own feet. Learn to mother yourself, father yourself, take care of yourself. And that's the developmental process. And then the third one here, function of the ego, is to establish an identity. Is to establish an identity. And this is through, it's actually through connections. So we make connections and we establish identity around that. And this identity is much of what we shape and form in our life at an early age as an ego. And our identity is to make connections. Let me just finish this here. Here it is. Around authority figures. There's the big key. Is the authority figures. Because what we'll find in little next class or so, we'll look at what authority figures approve of, you'll do. What they don't approve of, you're going to have a hard time developing your personality around that. And this, during this period, is the ego develops consciousness, a sense of itself, and of sort of clashing with authority figures. And the problems of life sort of begin because it's like, gee, the world's safe, now I'm on my own, some people like me and some people don't, some cultures accept me, some don't, some siblings do. This is now suddenly life paradise is gone, a new the human existence is well established, and this authority thing, and I still got a minute, so. And really what that means is who authors your life. Who authors, who writes it? And the fact is, the first half of life, our life is a biography written by someone else to a large degree. Nature, nurture, I know both are there. And in the second half of life, it's more of an autobiography. You get to write it yourself. And part of what we do in higher education is begin to think, okay, it's been written, now how do you want to write it and make it uniquely different for your own? So there's the three functions of the ego. It grounds us into time and space. It helps us stand on our feet and be different. And then we establish an identity around authority figures through making these connections with other people. Okay, I will see y'all next class. Thanks.